Hi, Jason. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ash. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. Just a typical busy day in founder's life. Nothing fancier. So Jason, tell tell us about, or should I put this question in a different way? Why should our listeners listen to Jason Saltzman? Tell me.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be on your second season. Right? This is the first episode of the second season.
It's the first episode of 11th season.
Oh my God, this is even bigger than I thought. I'm privileged. So, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Um, that's a great question. To just hop right in, my grandfather used to say, um, wise people, I'm going to try to get this right because I haven't said it in a really long time, but wise people learn from their own mistakes. The wisest people in the world learn from other people's mistakes, and
Hmm.
stupid people never learn at all. Right? He was very like right down to the point. I'm sure there's a variation of that saying in multiple languages and multiple ways of saying it, but that's how my papo used to say that.
Yeah.
And so why I think it's interesting to speak to me is because I've made all the mistakes and
Hmm.
I've hit every wall. I hit a lot of walls. I haven't made every mistake. I mean, there's different levels of mistakes, but for me, I didn't go. I didn't come from a business background. I never took one business class in my life. I'm a college dropout, and I built businesses in spite of that.
Hmm.
And learning from doing has a whole different feel. And I think you don't learn in the world of academia, which sort of sets you up to basically learn on your own. And through that sort of like worldly tutelage, I'll call it, you get kicked in the face a lot. And
Hmm.
I have a lot of stories and I have a lot of experience with multiple scenarios and how to not only deal with those scenarios specifically per business function and whatever you're doing with business, but what the type of mindset that you can
Hmm.
have along the way, which is
Yeah.
something that has matured as I've gotten to be a young buck like you into a dinosaur, which I am of today. So
Definitely, definitely,
there's my answer to
definitely.
that.
There you go. There you go. And you mentioned that you're a dropout. What was the story behind that? I mean, usually people don't, right? I mean, I see 99% people. When I graduated, first of all, getting into university is typically very difficult nowadays. Like, for example, let's say if I take my university example, Oxford, 96% people from around the world apply to it, and only I think 3.5% people get accepted. But then there are people who even after that get out of the university after paying lots of fees which they potentially have borrowed as a student loan or something like that. What's the
Yeah.
story behind your dropping out?
Well, it's a little bit different than that. The
Mhm.
colleges that I was a pretty wild kid.
Mm,
I sampled life. I grew up in the '90s in New York and in Long Island, and traveling to New York City pretty much every weekend to go out and party. I
mhm,
grew up fast and hard, and I
mm,
sampled life, and I'm glad I did because that's the time to do it. Right? You got to just get. You got to. I don't know if I tell this to my own kids, but you got to get it out while you can. You
mm.
know, because life's only going to get more serious as you grow, more bills, more responsibilities, and so on. So it's great to have that. I had that awareness then, which is
Mm,
quite special, I think. And I tasted all the fruits. And I didn't. I wasn't academically inclined. I just didn't like sitting in school. I hated it. I hated
mm,
it. And I actually built my first business while I was in high school, and it was in the debt relief space.
mhm,
And I started to make money while I was going to school.
mm,
And it was like when I started college, it was like, okay, why am I paying to learn when I can get paid to learn,
Wow, that's a good
right?
one. Yeah.
So and by the way, you're right about, I believe, dropping out of Oxford, which is, an amazing university with such a prestigious brand, is probably very rare. But I feel like over the years, what I see in more and more dropouts, I mean, Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard,
Yeah.
right?
Harvard. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, and I think that story happens more and more every day where, the real life scenarios are the universities of our era. But when I did it, nobody was doing it.
Mm.
And I often tell people that, when I went out and got my first check, you know, people around my age were going to like become lawyers or doctors or work for big companies. They weren't building their own businesses. It wasn't common as it is today. Entrepreneurship wasn't an easy term to get
Mm.
behind in my world. Matter of fact, and I often say this story, but when I brought my first check home, my parents thought I was selling drugs or something. They were like, "How did you manifest this? Like, how did this come out?"
But by the way, how much was that check for?
It was $1,200.
Oh, that's
Felt like
cool
all the
for.
money in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's still a lot of money, but like it was like, wow, like what? And so that's really where I stood. Where it was like, all right, like I'm really not into this. Um, and I was making money on my own, so I
Mm.
dove into that world, almost by accident. And I didn't mean to be a college dropout, but then you look back and you're like, oh shit, I'm a college dropout. But you know what? I have a business, and I'm
Mm.
doing it, and I'm grinding, and I'm making things work, and I'm learning. And now, I'm hiring people from Oxford and hiring people from Harvard, and
Mm.
it's kind of a dichotomy. I actually sit on a, a board of a university,
Mm.
so it it's kind of become full circle,
Indeed.
and so not that say it's for everybody, but that's definitely my journey.
Definitely, definitely. I can see that. So, Jason, I had a very, I've been lucky. I had really good guests on the show in last 10 seasons, and as we are doing something new in this season, what would be your highlights of your past life, since when you started earlier businesses in your even in your school? So for example, one of the guests we had, Justin, well, his startup got acquired by Uber for 200 million. So when he mentioned that, I was like, wow, how did you do that? Because I wouldn't, first of all, I didn't knew that Uber acquired quite a lot of startups. That was new to me.
Yeah.
And then when he mentioned that a jump bike, the bike, when you're in the city of metro city and you can hire it for tap of a card, could be acquired for that much money. I was like really, really surprised. So if you had to say, what were the two or three highlights of your past life? How do you define it?
Well, I've had a couple of exits.
Hmm.
They're not the level of $200 million, which is wonderful. But I don't really look at those things as highlights so much
Hmm.
as the journey itself and the people that I met and the things that I was able to be part of.
Hmm.
Um, During my tenure at my last business, which was a business incubator that we built in New York City, that we
Hmm.
scaled across the country with large organizations like Verizon. We built the 5G labs, which is the 5G labs of today, which was Alley powered by Verizon when we built it in New York
Hmm.
and scaled it across the country. Um, that business caught a lot of media attention. And so I was able to get a lot of eyeballs from interesting people that were working on interesting things. And one of the things that stick out to me was during the Obama administration, going back that far, they had a cultural affairs uh, agenda to send entrepreneurs into the Middle East
Mm.
to spread the word of entrepreneurship with people that were interested. And that
Okay.
was the US speaker program, which was I was humbled to take part of. and
Mm,
I went into Kuwait, and I spent a lot of time with the entrepreneurs in Kuwait, and I was able to meet such amazing individuals, and and grow that. Like I was able, they gave me a title. It was special advisor to entrepreneurship for the United States of America, which is
mm,
like really cool. Like side note, didn't pay me, but
mm,
like it was just such a great experience, and it got me out of my comfort zone of meeting extremely interesting people from different
mm,
cultures that I wasn't familiar with. And then I have moments like that where I went on a fellowship program called Reality into Israel with
mm,
a bunch of other entrepreneurs. That's backed by the Susterman Foundation, where we got to meet 50 other people and take an experience and learning about sort of like the Palestinian Israeli conflict. That obviously this is years ago. Now it's
mm,
gotten to a whole fever pitch what's happening right now. And I was able to establish relationships on both sides of the aisle, which is very interesting because you don't look at it in the news.
mm,
And most recently, I just accepted a co-chair position in an accelerator program that's ran by MIT called the
mm,
Regional Entrepreneurship Accelerator Program, which I know those aren't like financial windfalls,
mm.
but they're the most interesting things aside from the business that I'm working on right now that have like sort of like thrusted me into a world of innovation and collaboration and just meeting a bunch of really amazing people.
Interesting. And your perspective, looking at this opportunity in this way is also interesting, because usually founders don't look at these opportunities like that. They usually think that it's waste of time because they're primarily into making profits or return on investment. But your perspective is different. That's really, really interesting. And a couple of things I want to pick up on is, you mentioned that you were into what is this, debt management business early in the career. Would you be able to talk a little bit about that? Where did the idea came from it, and then what was the strategies you used in order to get more traction? Because mostly founders, they struggle to get traction, eyeballs on their businesses, and potentially figure out their market fit, stage.
Yeah.
So would you be able to take our listeners through that journey, and then the strategies you used?
Yeah. So let me unpack it for a second. So in the early 2000s, very late 90s, what the kids are calling the 1900s, which
Hmm.
is friggin' incredible to me.
Yeah.
I was introduced to consumer debt relief space
Hmm.
um, through family, friends, starting businesses. It was a very popular space back then and a very simple business to get into because it's very needed, and it's and with the advent of the internet becoming a place where people went for information, there was a whole bunch of people that were looking for help
Hmm.
online with their debt. And there becomes an opportunity to provide a service to help them.
Hmm.
And that was the spawn of debt relief firms across the United States. Um, so I was part of that very early, and I learned a lot. And I scaled our first business from our second business into our third business, into dealing with into a local business into a national business with thousands of affiliates and tens of thousands of people that we were helping. And out of that, I partnered with a person who was much more technical than me, and he wanted to build a tech company.
Hmm.
And so he saw all the paperwork that was flying all over our office that needed to be filed to get these workouts for people. And he
Hmm.
sort of built software to manage the flow of all this paperwork. We're back from a technical era. All right. So picking up where I left off, and to kind of cap this out, you never know where you're going to find your next business. And that's why I urge you, if you're listening to this, and you're thinking about what to do, it's never going to be perfect, and nothing you do is going to be perfect. Just keep your eyes open and stay curious, right? Because that's exactly what I did. And my partner at the time was building this paperwork automation service for our own needs. And we were like, damn, we should be working on this. Like, it's a lot less friction. Most of you who don't know about debt relief, I'm sure, and hopefully you're not going through this yourself, somebody who needs it, but it's a very hard space to be in. It's riddled with fraud and bad actors, and it's just not I loved helping people and providing solutions. I didn't like the business model and the fact that you, excuse me, have to charge people that are so vulnerable, that are going through these problems. But we got to help so many families. But it's a very tough business. And I liked building a tech company. It spoke to me. That business went on. We raised a seed round, Series A, Series B, Series C, exited the company in 2020. It became a GovTech company that helped paperwork, the flow of paperwork, and automated it. And that all started from debt relief. Now, fast forward, and I built another company that was my business incubator that I mentioned earlier. And when the pandemic hit, I exited from that business. And it basically seemed like the appropriate time for me to take a really big swing at a really big problem and build the first app that can fully help people that are falling behind on their bills. So it's been a 3-year plus mission. We just launched publicly 8 months ago, and we're helping tens of thousands of people currently who fell behind on their bills, which I get so much joy and stress and all the other stuff about building the business. Where we were able to raise a seed round, a Series A. We're going into pre-Series B and then B round, subsequently coming up right now. And that's where we're at and how I
Great.
got here.
And you're calling it Relief? Is that the one, or is it the
Yeah,
next one?
right by my name. That's exactly what the name of the company is.
Is there what's the revenue model, or what's the pain point you're trying to solve first, and then we will talk about the revenue model?
So, like, currently, if you fall behind on your bills, there's so many things as a user, as a consumer, that you have to deal with. You're getting letters in the mail. You're getting phone calls that are calling you, hounding you. It's intimidating. You don't know what the end of the call is going to look like. Often it's a very aggressive call. You get met with a recording that's a very legal recording that basically says you're being recorded. It's very, very stressful. With our app, you don't have to deal with any of that to find out what your creditor's willing to do for you. So what also happens, aside from getting a million calls when you fall behind on your bills, is the value of the debt goes down because the debt gets sold. And out of them selling the debt, the consumer has access to a workout they have no idea exists unless they pick up the phone and talk to these debt collectors or whoever holds the debt and deals with that, and all of that friction to get to that deal. With our app, it's fully automated. So a consumer can just download the app, connect their debts, and they can see through the app without having to make one phone call what their creditor is willing to do for them. It's the first of its kind.
Interesting, because usually what happens is if you have some kind of debt, people get calls from either bank or payday loan, whatever organization they gave them the money, and then they try to get the money back, which puts them into again in the situation where they didn't have the money, that's why they didn't pay it back. I mean, I'm sure there must be some people who just don't pay because they don't want to, out of no reason. But most people are like more vulnerable. They can't afford to pay, so they need some kind of like either a plan in place where they can return the funds back. And what encouraged you to get into this space to help people out?
Somebody's got to do it. somebody built an app to help people trade stocks easier. Somebody built an app to pick people up on the corner wherever the hell they are or order food. There's just been no app to help people that fell behind on their bills. And there needs to be one. So somebody's got to do it. And with my knowledge and skill set and my network, why not me?
Yeah, definitely. So let's say you came up with the idea. I don't know if you've hired a team to build the app application, the product is there. What's because I'm guessing it's a it's sort of like a market where you need to buy debts from somewhere, or the company needs to contact you to get it, and then the people who return back the debt. I'm guessing. How did you get traction from these two sides? What was your strategy?
So actually, we don't buy debt. We don't hold paper. We're really just an intermediary for the user. We did have to establish relationships with debt buyers and debt collectors, and that took a long time of business development. And we built Rails that connects the user and understanding their financials and doing cash flow models and understanding what they can afford and a little bit about their situation. We then take their information and we're able to understand what the net present value of that debt is by contacting the creditor on the back end. And all that is we've automated, right? So yeah, we have to deal with onboarding consumers and going out to market, educating them that this exists. And on the back end, we've had to make several relationships so that we can provide these transactions for the consumers.
Well, so you said that it took a very long time to build this relationship. What was the strategies toward the front end side? So, for example, the people whom you want to educate, were you going on LinkedIn and putting some tutorials there? What was it, YouTube? Was it search engine optimization? What's the techniques you used?
Well, it starts with the inside out. So our thesis is always building a digital brand that speaks to digital natives. What would that look like in terms of customer acquisition? Because in the companies that do it today, much like I did it 20 plus years ago, the customer acquisition costs are extremely high. And our thesis was it's the nature of the business what's causing that customer acquisition to go up. For instance, the infomercials that they have on television that scare people cost a ton of money. And you're not getting digital natives. They don't want to talk to anybody on the phone. So we were like, all right, if we do this digitally and we could create everything as an in-app service, what would that do for our customer acquisition? So we tested that, right? Pre having anything, we built a wait list. And we were able to accumulate a wait list of over 100,000 people in a very short amount of time for very low cost of acquisition. So we knew we were right on customer acquisition. And at that point, we built the back end and went after the relationships. And in between that, we raised our subsequent rounds of funding to allow us to move forward. And that's the secret.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned about the waitlist. That's really interesting because when I launched my own business, what I did is I put the waiting list and I launched it on some beta launch portals because I don't know if you're aware of product launch. They don't allow you to launch something which is not actually exist or,
Product Hunt?
Yeah, sorry, Product Hunt. Yeah. So they don't allow people to put their products on Product Hunt unless you have it live. So we released it on some portals.
We did.
Like beta. Oh, you did that. Okay. How did you manage to get that?
Because we built enough of the onboarding that it was sort of like a test of market and the idea was like fully fleshed out. Matter of fact, we got product of the week or day and month and stuff on Product Hunt, which had a lot of early adopters sort of joining our wait list.
Wow. So is this 100,000 waitlist people from Product Hunt, or did you do any advertisement also online, or who was that?
No, we did some static ads on Meta and just testing the market. And we had a lot of organic, like 80 some odd % of the people were just referring it to other people.
Oh, okay. Why was that? What was the crux? Why people were referring?
I think, well, because everybody, 1 in 3 Americans are behind on their bills,
Mm,
and there's no digitized solution. And I think that that alone is extremely interesting of an offering for people that really need the help. So
mm.
we made it very easy for them to share, and we incentivized it. We gave them a little bit of money towards their debt if they refer other folks, which like just like kind of took off.
Yeah, yeah. I think PayPal did something similar when they were acquiring new customers. They were giving away, I think, $7 or $10 or something for each referral when they were starting. Do you think incentivizing the referrals with money is a good choice? I mean, like you're giving away the debt they already have, the portion of that debt, give money back to them. But this is not necessarily, or this is not necessarily the case for every startup, I guess. So what's your advice on? I mean, I totally get that referral is the like golden mine for startups, right? That if you get it working, then it's the best thing. But what would be the best use case for incentivizing the referrals, or how should we do it if we don't want to incentivize it with money?
Well, that's a very nuanced question, and it really depends on the space that you're in, the business
Mhm.
that you're in, the users that you're getting. I mean, for some industries, it's illegal. You know, you can't do it. You can't incentivize people financially. I'm not a lawyer, but like I pretend to be one on TV sometimes. Um, but for me, it has to for the questions that I asked that we asked ourselves. What's authentic to us that is a goal we want the users to accomplish. So it wasn't about the money. It was about we didn't give them cash. We gave them money to pay down their debt, which is
Mm,
ultimately what we're trying to do is eliminate as much consumer debt as humanly possible through the app, right? So it was
mm.
authentic to us to do such a thing and to do it in that way. But that it's again, it's different for everybody. So I would look. My advice to you is you have to look at what is authentic to you based on the vision and mission of your business,
Mm.
and you got to figure that shit out.
Yeah, yeah. No, totally agree. Because every business have a different kind of revenue model, so you need to figure out if it even fits into your you know process. Cool. And is this something which you're trying to, like you already mentioned that you're getting into A series round now, Series A,
No, we
or
raised the Series A. Yeah, we're gonna
already
we're targeting our Series B soon.
Series B too. So would you be able to talk a little bit about like how big is the team, how many customers you have, how much
Sure.
revenue yeah.
So we launched 8 months ago. We have over 80,000 users that represent over $4 billion worth of consumer debt that's been enrolled into the platform.
Hmm.
And we've done that very lean and mean. We use AI in everything that we do. We're able to code faster, process documents faster. Customer service has been streamlined, and we're building more language around automating even that better at scale. We've been able to get our COGS down sub $3 in an industry that's around $300, and our customer acquisition costs, I mean, per download is under $2. So
Wow.
we've been
Wow.
able to accomplish major things in a very short amount of time.
That's pretty cool. And can you share a compelling case study that highlights how an individual or maybe few individuals leveraged by using relief and achieved success to solve their key problem? I want to hear. I would love to hear about the specific problem they had in terms of debt, which is not i- which is not known by general public, and then the steps relief has provided them to take to implement the solution in place.
So okay, cool. So just to familiarize yourself with the problem a little bit, and whoever's listening, and if you're going through this right now, I know how stressful this situation could be. I've been through it myself. I've had my ups and downs as an entrepreneur. I went broke on multiple occasions, and it feels like it's the end of the world, and it's not. It's an algorithm, and I'm gonna break that down. But I also want you to understand something that, just because you have debt and you fell behind, you're not a bad person, right? A lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people on the outside who've never really looked into the problem just look at it as an irresponsibility issue. You took out money, you can't afford it, you can't pay it back, you suck. The problem is much deeper than that, especially in the United States. Inflation has raised the cost of goods 5x over the past 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. That means that more and more Americans are putting everyday goods on their credit cards more than ever, right? Which leads to more use of a credit card than ever before. And we're reaching, as a country, delinquencies on credit cards at the levels we have not seen since the 2008 housing crisis, right? So, A, you're not a bad person. More than likely, it's due to the cost of every single good in the planet going up along the way, and you basically not being able to afford it. And you're not alone, and you will get through this. So that's number one, okay? That's the root of the problem for 98% of the people that are going through this right now. The other thing is understanding the systemic issues along with debt. Because in high school or whatever, experience you have with education, you're hardly ever taught how to use a credit card, but you're taught things like how to dissect a frog, which has always been backwards to me, because when are you going to dissect a frog in real life compared to when you're going to use a credit card? And credit cards are very sophisticated financial tools. They might be easy to use, and there might be a commercial that makes it look like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and priceless. But the reality is it's a compound interest tool that if you take out more money than you're able to pay back on a monthly basis, the money that you owe is compounded month over month, which means that your debt is growing and growing and growing. And even when you make minimum payments, it's not going anywhere. And this problem is a complete epidemic across the United States of America and beyond, but mostly in the United States of America, because we're a country of consumers. That's exactly what's happening right now. Now, for people that are falling behind on their bills, which is the most aggressive state, your options are limited to bankruptcy or like a debt settlement program, which is like a company that can take care of it. They charge thousands of dollars, and in most cases, they can't accept debt under a certain amount because they have to cover their costs. Until now, that's what the app is for. And right now, we're saving, on average, people 50% of their total debt, and we've seen savings on people that have fell behind up to 70% of their total debt without having to do anything but put their information into the app. So if you're going through this, download the app, put in your information, and just see what it can do for you. And the company doesn't make one dime unless you have savings that are attached to an actual outcome. The service is completely guaranteed and backed by the outcome itself. And that's what we've been doing since we launched 8 months ago, and it's working.
Interesting. I think you're doing really good work, Jason. Here, you're not just helping people who doesn't have any other way to go forward with, but also giving them a chance that they can actually look at the options in their palm, right? So that's really good. So before we go into our lightning round, I have a personal question, if you don't mind. Sure. Throughout your journey and experience, there must have been some valuable lessons learned, right? If you don't mind sharing, could you like reflect on your experience and tell us about one mistake or setback that you have encountered along the way, that you now consider not a regret but a lessons learned, and what advice would you give to our listeners based on this experience?
So I've had so many things happen that I've realized that's just part of the game. And that's the lesson. The lesson is that if you're doing, I have a saying that I think I've created where it's like, if you're going to go into rare air, there's going to be turbulence, right? And so if you're building a business or doing something extraordinary, or you're asking your boss for a raise, or you're doing anything that's outside your comfort zone, you're going to face setbacks. It's part of the game. The universe is going to test you to see how much you want something. In the biggest cases of all, it's going to be the most turbulent. And so my advice is to know that truth and to not sacrifice your peace of mind along the way by preparing yourself, by having the right mindset going into something. If you think that you're just going to go into something and you're going to nail it and hit it right away, I promise you that more than 99.9% of the times that is not the case. And behind every successful outcome that you see on TechCrunch or whatever article, Forbes or whatever, is a story about somebody getting kicked in the dirt along the way. So you need to prepare yourself for that and have a realistic understanding. And you have to not only accept that, but enjoy that. Because life is not so much about the outcome, which is completely unpredictable in most cases. It's about the journey. And that's something that I've matured to learn along the way.
That's really deep, and I totally agree with you on this, because if you're not, people fancied entrepreneurship or being a founder in last decade. They showcase that becoming a businessman or an entrepreneur is like flying private jets and having big parties, surrounded by wealthy people. But that's not exactly it is. You have to learn all the things which somebody else was doing for you when you were working. For example, you have to learn accounting, you have to learn taxes, you have to learn how to manage your finances. But not just that, you need to learn strategies, how to negotiate, how to read a person who wants to join you, how to be a leader, how to inspire people. These are very important entrepreneurial skill set and capabilities which you need to have when you're jumping into this journey. So yeah, thanks for this, Jason. So time for us to jump into our quick fire round. I've got 6 quick fire questions for you.
And let me prepare myself. Let me buckle up. Let me buckle up.
Yeah, I've got 6 quick fire questions, so you can answer them as quickly as possible. You ready?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Great. What's the top 3 strategies in 2025 for founders to start a business? So even starting the business before they have to, figure it out.
Well, one is I would start by clearly defining what your mission and vision are, because you're going to need to share this with others if you want to get any type of involvement from customers, partners, investors. So clearly define your mission and vision. My second is to be agile. So even though you developed a mission and vision, be ready to change it along the way based on the information that comes to you. And lastly, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. And know that you can't control everything. Just put your 100% into the things that you can control.
Yeah, no, I like these 3. What book would you recommend to our audience, and why?
I read. I am a crazy reader. I read like 3 books at a time, and I put it down, and I pick it up, and I put them down. especially the older books, because they've, lasted the test of time. The Dale Carnegies of the world, the Think and Grow Rich of the world, How to Win Friends and Influence People of the world. Right now, I'm very into Stoicism, and I'm reading a lot of the Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, Roman Empire, wrote his journal Meditations that's been transcribed over the years, and it's available. Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way, is a great entry point into the world of Stoicism. I highly recommend that.
Got it. I think I need to add that into my reading list. Right now, I'm just on the psychology of money, so it's gonna take a while to finish it.
That's a great one for what I do. I mean, I've got that book for all my employees over the years.
Perfect. Great. What's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful businessman or a founder?
There's only one that I could think of. That's a consistent, no matter what size of the business, exit, or any successful metric you want to put together, they kept going. No matter what the odds were, no matter what the obstacles they faced, they kept going.
There you go. No, I think that's one of the most important one. What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
Your mornings are so sacred. I've been learning to prepare my days much more efficiently by investing in myself. So I walk pretty much every morning, walk/run. I read a little bit every morning, and I try to just like enjoy, my space before your day gets started. It's a really great way of mentally preparing yourself. Bless you, Ash. So I would say that, a prepared morning makes for a really good day.
Yeah. I started waking up just 10 minutes before my usual time, and it makes huge difference. So yeah, I can vouch for it. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
Wow, I didn't think about that for a long. I haven't thought about that because I'm doing so much shit right now. I'm like doing it, and I get ideas all the time, and I just walk into things. I'm like, oh, it'd be great if this had this and this had this. I'm taking such a big swing with Relief. It's like the biggest thing that I've ever done so far. So I'm really like, I need, like, the world needs this to exist. So it's my opportunity not to F that up. So it's like what I put all my heart and soul into. It's a really great question that I just don't have an answer for.
That's all right. That's all right. We can move to the next one. What's an interesting or a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
I'm a recreational poker player. So like I love the game itself. I spend a lot of time thinking about it and playing it. I find it to be a very good distraction from my everyday problems, even though it comes with its own stress. But I find it very enjoyable, and I've been doing it for well over 20 years.
Oh, that's amazing. You must be really, really good at poker then.
I wouldn't say that.
Great. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story, unpacking the last years of building different businesses and some of the ups and downs along the way. If people want to check out Relief, or if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So Relief is available in the App Store, iOS, and Apple Store, and the Google Play Store for Android. You can go to relief.app to see and learn a little bit more. For me personally, I'm on Instagram at Jason Saltzman, and on Twitter at SaltzmanJason. DM me if you have any questions whatsoever. I love communicating with people from a business advice perspective. And as well as if you're going through anything with your debt, I'm here to help as much as humanly possible.
Perfect. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today, and sharing your inspirational journey with Relief and the impactful work you're doing with it. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Founders Podcast.
Me too, Ash. Thanks so much for having me.